can take. Yes, sir. Good afternoon to all, and we can also start resume the lesson. The enemy by Carlos Buck, page number 30. The last paragraph, you can also see that. So I will tell them what you say. When the old gardener and of course they came, you can also see that the master are not to heal the wound of this white man. He said bluntly to Hannah, and of course he was trying to convey the message to his particular master through Hannah. You understand that? Then white man ought to die, and he believed that. He thought that the white man ought to die. He must die, and of course, first he was shot, and he was giving the reason for that. First he was shot by a gun. Then the sea caught him and wounded him with the rocks. So something he was how he was connecting all those things. And if the master heals what the gun did, and of course what the sea did, they will take revenge on us. This is known as superstition. You know what is the meaning? Superstition. Something blind faith. You can also underline the word and write blind faith. Something we are just closing our eyes and of course believing maybe it is right. So likewise, he also thought that, and he was telling that they will take revenge. Even the gun and of course the sea will take revenge on us. Like then I will tell him. See, understood the situation, and of course he behaved accordingly because he behaved very politely because he was an old gardener, and of course he had adequate experience in Sarava's father's house. That's why. You understand? He was like one of the family members. So I will tell them what you say. Hannah replied courteously, very respectfully, and but she herself was also frightened. How they started to react. Even Yumi started to oppose, and here old gardener also started to oppose. And she already, she was already with panic, like, and she was already threatened by that activity. So here, but she herself was also frightened, although she was not superstitious as the old man was. You can underline that. Although she was not superstitious, she was not believing the blind faith, but anyhow she was frightened because of their opposition, right? And okay, then you can continue. Could it ever be well to the next page? You can see that would it ever be well to help an enemy? And she was asking this question, and herself she was asking that herself she was asking this question. Would it ever be well to help an enemy, something she was asking. And nevertheless she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. So it was taking place in the kitchen. You understand that? When she entered into the kitchen, and of course the old gardener he came and discussed, of course. Then after that discussion, she just she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. She also ordered, right? And she behaved very politely with the old gardener. But Yumi, and of course he was just yes, no issues, right? Yes, sir. So here, and she was just telling, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. And then she went ahead. And of course, he was just leading. So she went ahead and slid. That means, she came, moved. So slid back to the partitions where he was. Sarah was not yet there when she entered. Sarah was not yet there. Yumi following, and of course put down her wooden bucket. Then she went over to the white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into stubbornness. You underline the word stubbornness means something, contrary, or we are saying that something, hatred. She also showed that hatred while looking at that, and he started to refuse. And she rejected. That means while looking at an American or a white man, she reacted. She also reacted that particular that moment also she came to know that, oh, I was asked to clean a white man, an enemy. So maybe Japanese means no issues. You understand that? So here she was eager and still back to the partitions. Sarah was not yet there, and Yumi following put down her wooden bucket with the hot water. Then she went over to the white man. That was the man. So that only that was her duty. That was her sign. So that she just went very closer and of course looked at the man. Just had a glance. When she saw him, while seeing, her thick lips folded themselves. Something that agitating activity. She reacted and she refused themselves into stubbornness in the sense refusal. You can underline the word stubbornness and write refusal. And she started to refuse, and she mentioned very clearly, I have never washed a white man, she said, and I will not wash so dirty one now. You understand? She was very clear. As a Japanese, she was very clear, and of course, he stated and she started to oppose the masters too. You understand that? That's why you can also have a closed bracket and make an important symbol. I have never watched a white man, she said, who was a speaker, and of course to whom he shared the things. So I have never, I means you can also go for Yumi. So likewise, questions will be there. You understand? This is known as textual questions. So textual based. So I have never asked a white man, she said, and I will not watch so dirty one now. So she was very clear. She was just giving an entry. Then and immediately Hannah cried. She also cried, shouted at her. Hannah cried at her severely. You will do what your master commands you. Something, and she also took responsibilities. And she just, shared with Yumi. Yumi, please, you understand one thing. This is not from me and this is from your master. You have to follow. You will do what your master commands you. Then why are you rejecting and forcing? This is what she asked. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened, you understand? When she started to react while looking at the reactions from Yumi, so she was automatically, threatened. You understand? Because already they were hiring an enemy. That's why that they were doing something illegal or against of the rules and regulations of the country, and that's why here our Mistress Hannah started to fear. That's why here you can see that when she commands, see here, when she cried at her severely, you will do what your master commands you. Then, while looking at the reaction, there was so fierce, underline the word, so fierce, some violent resistance. Fierce means violent. Violent, a look, fierce, a look of resistance, underline the word resistance, opposition upon Yumi's eyes. Sir, Yumi's face. You understand facial expressions. So Yumi's round, dull face, while looking at that, Anna felt unreasonably afraid by her attitude. You understand that? Even though she was the mistress in the house, she was, being threatened by Yumi's reactions. Just imagine that how much she just, cruel like. And she was very hard personality. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened, and she was just worrying for that all the servants are taking in a wrong way. What we intended, nobody knows. You understand what we intended? Nobody knows. That's why they started to react in a different way. Okay, very well. She came to know that. She understood. She took her own time. She took her own time. Hannah took her own time. She said with dignity. You know what is the meaning of this dignity? As she behaved with the old gardener. Gardener. You can also see that. See, I will tell him what you say. Hannah replied courteously to the old gardener. As it is your here, she was also replying, very well, she said with dignity to Yumi. Yes, you understand. You understand. We only want to bring him to his senses, so that only we can turn him over as a prisoner. Otherwise, he will be died. You should understand what is our intention. And she was trying to convince Yumi. So she said that okay, no problem. Very well. You are not ready to wash the man. Okay, that is not, of course, your duty. Okay, no issues. Please, one thing you should understand, you understand, we only want to bring him to a senses. Then only we can hand him over to the police as a prisoner. So that we can turn him over as a prisoner. You please understand. This is what he was just, requesting. Now you can see that I will have nothing to do. And here Yumi was giving a clear statement. I will have nothing to do with it. Yumi said, "I am a poor person, not like you. You are the mistress of Dr. Sadovo, and he is a very genuine personality, somewhat government official like. So not like you, you people. I am something I am a very poor person. So I am a very poor person, and it is not my business. You understand how much he was clever? That means escapism. She didn't want to take part in that, contribute something to the white man. That's why she somewhat, avoided everything very cleverly and of course very clearly. Then Hannah understood the situation. Then please, Hannah said gently, return to your own work. No issues, Yumi. And she understood she will not agree. She will not compromise. That's why she understood. Hannah understood the difficult situation, so she accepted and started to behave accordingly. Then please, Hannah said gently to Yumi, return to your own work. That means taking care of the babies. At once Yumi left the room, but this left Hannah with the white man alone. Already she escaped. When Sadova came out of the house, out of the room, immediately she also came behind him, right? But this time she was totally depressed by the activities of the old gardener and of course old gardener and Yumi. So that at once Yumi left the room, but this left Hannah with the white man alone. She might have been too afraid to stay had not her anchor at Yumi's stubbornness now sustained her. With that intention, with that tension, and of course depressed state, she was staying alone with the white man without thinking about that. So she was totally depressed. That's why she was just, speaking to herself. Stupid Yumi, she muttered fiercely, something, violently, as a, head of the family, like as the mistress. And of course, he also said, muttered some, few words like, stupid Yumi. She muttered fiercely, "Is this anything but a man and a wounded, helpless man?" Now she came down. You understand? She took her. Nobody was ready to do that. That's why she understood. Okay, no other go. I have to go and work because my husband is expecting that, and with that intention. So she just came down, and of course, first she was not ready to touch a white man, and of course now no other go. Even Yumi rejected. Old Garden also started to oppose. Now she understood the situation. And she told that, is this anything but a man? That also you can just have a close to bracket and write, make an important symbol. Is this anything? Well, just seeing the white man, enemy, injured man. Is it anything but a man and wounded, helpless man? So as a human being, of course, we have to support. You understand that? As a human being, we have to support. So in the conviction of our own superiority, you underline the words conviction, that strong belief, right? Strong belief, conviction. We are saying, the conviction and commitment, like. So in the conviction, as head of the family or the mistress of the family, like, so here strong belief of her own superiority. You know what is the meaning I'm trying to convey? So in the conviction of her own superiority, she bent impulsively. Underline the word impulsively. Impulsively means here, without caring or something. She was just coming closer to the injured man. So she bent, she came closer impulsively, without, it's like, acting like, and untied the knotted rags that kept the white man covered. Something, she just removed and started to wash. Totally, he was injured, and of course, with, reddish blood stains. So here she started to do that and untied, removed the knotted rags clothes that kept the white man covered. When she had his best, breast bare, she dipped a small clean towel that Yumi had brought into the steaming hot water, and of course washed his face carefully. And she did that because within a minute, as soon as possible. Here, he will come and he will also expect. He will expect that should be done like that. Means, cleaning the man, because he wanna, do an operation. He want to, operate, and he wanted to give a survival. So was of a fine texture and must have been very blonde when he was a child. While looking at the man carefully, here washed his face carefully. The man's skin, though rough with exposure, was of a fine texture. While looking at the, youngster, we will also, in his childhood, he might have like, we will also think, well, he was very soft and sensitive. While looking at that, was of a fine texture. Underline that texture, and must have been very blonde. Underline the word blonde. Maybe pale in color, white, pale in color, blonde when he was a child. And she was thinking that while cleaning, he was very soft and tender, like, he was a youngster. He was like a child for her. He was like a child. You see, she took like that, right? And when she was thinking these thoughts, while she was thinking these thoughts, though not really liking the man better now that he was no longer as a child. And of course, he was thinking about his childhood experience. Such in his childhood, he might have liked that, but now he is not a child, and of course, he is a youngster. Anyhow, she was just, helping him, and she kept on washing him until his upper body was quite clean. But she dared not turn him over, otherwise she would be somewhat, threatened by looking at his face, something. So, but she dared not. She was not ready to turn him. For that, she need, full energy to turn. She needed support from, Saravo also. So, but she dared not turn him over. Where was Saravo? Immediately she thought that she was not asking something. She was, she thought that now her anger was ebbing. Underline the word. Now something she had done for the enemy. You understand that? She left everything for the sake of that particular injured man, and of course, because her husband was expecting that, and he was going to do an operation. So here now her anchor was ebbing. So she came closer, and instead of servant, she also served to humanity. Now her anchor was ebbing, means being reduced. Ebbing, underline the word and write declining. That means reduced, diminished. D-I-M-I-N-I-S-K-E-D. Diminished means reduced. Now she became somewhat normal. And she was anxious again, and she worried again, and she rose immediately. She stood up, wiping her hands on the wrong towel. What is the meaning here? Wiping after completing her work, somewhat only part of her work. She has done that, Then she just stood up, and of course, she was wiping her hands on the wrong towel. What is the meaning wrong towel? No meaning, wrong towel means which was used for cleaning that particular enemy. That's why she considered that was a wrong towel. And of course, she was just, wiping her hands on the wrong towel. Then lest the man be chilled, and of course, and then she put the quilt over him. As it is like, while looking at in a hospitals, in hospitals, of course, those who are hospitalized, their image we can also remember. We can also, imagine how they. So likewise, he put the quilt cover over him, and Sadavas he called softly. That means when she was expecting his presence, something has done for him. So she called Sadava, she called very carefully or softly, and he had been about to come in when she called. So it is like, coincidence. We are saying that coincidence. When she was calling, he had been about to come in when she called. His hand had been on the door, and now he opened it. So he saw that he had brought the surgeon's emergency bag, and that he wore a surgeon's coat. Something, while looking at that, that means he prepared himself for the operation. He decided everything in beforehand. That's why he came with everything he arranged. So while looking at that, she saw that he had brought a surgeon's emergency bag, and that he wore a surgeon's coat. While looking at this image, now I think page number 33, you could also see that how he was, even surgeons, even the light also, surgeon's emergency bag also, then even injection also, everything you can also see that. So now while looking, so you have decided to operate, she cried while looking at this image. So that means, with the determination. So she asked, you have decided to operate, she cried. Something, yes, he said very shortly. Cool, something, and he was cool man. Anyhow, he had to, work, and of course, yes, he said shortly. Yes, I decided. What do you want? You all already we discussed. Again, you are asking. So he turned us back to her, and of course, and he turned us back to her and unfolded a sterilized towel. Underline the word sterilized. Sterilized. That means, it's very clean and sensitive, or made germ free or cleans. A sterilized towel upon the floor of the Tokomano alcove. Underline the word Tokomano alcove. And then he arranged everything. You understand that? You can also see that. So here he turned us back to her, and of course unfolded, opened, spread a sterilized towel upon the floor of the Tokomono alcove, and put his instruments out upon it. One by one he was arranging. That means he was getting ready for the war, getting ready for the battle. That means, his operation. He wanted to save his human soul. That was his determination, and of course his intention. So here, fetch towel, he said. So he was totally, involved in that. So that he ordered to his assistant, like, so fetch towel. So bring towel, he said. She went obediently. Only there was, except Saravo, there was a wounded man, and of course Hannah. Nobody was there except three of them, and one who lied, motionless. So here the next to shadow was Hannah, and Hannah went obediently when he ordered, fetch towel, bring towel, he said. So he went obediently, but now how anxious now to the lenient selves, lenient tells, lenient, you can also see that. So you're asking, Tokomono, where is that? You can see that. Yes, yes. Tokonoma Algo. In your textbook 32, you can just see that. What was that? You can see everything is given here, right? And let me continue. So here you can see that. And she went obediently, but how anxious now to the lenient selves, and took out the towel. And of course, she was totally disturbed. Something, whatever we get, whatever we have, something, we consider that is precious. And of course, I think we studied in 11th standard. I think the address by Margo Minko, right? And of course, whatever the precious things totally being collapsed, something, damaged, injured, or misused, like. So she was not ready to use the towel also, but anyhow, she was ordered, so that she just took out the towels, and there are also to be old pieces of matting, so that the blood would not ruin the fine floor covering. This is what they're thinking. She went out to the back veranda, where the garden kept the strips and of course matting. That means, the cloths and everything, cloth kept strips of matting with which to protect delicate shrubs on cold night, and took an awful of them. She just brought that. where older gardener, we just spread that. So it was there hanging like. So she just went and of course took that. But when she went back into the room, she saw this was useless because already everything was done, happened, like everything was happened or something, done. The blood had already choked through the packing in the man's wound and had ruined the mat under him. So she tried to, save the things. But anyhow, it was already collapsed before her arrival. You understand that? Oh, the mat, she cried. And of course, he cried, oh, the mat. Yes, it is ruined. He was very cool. You understand? Because he started to dedicate himself. Anything will happen at any time. Like so, yes, it is ruined. Shadow replied, as though he did not care. He didn't consider. He didn't consider something was, wasted. Like so, he continued his work. Help me to turn him. He commanded her, and of course, he obeyed him without a word because nobody was there except Hannah. So here she obeyed him when he called, when he asked help me to turn him. She obeyed him without a word and he began to wash the man's back carefully. He was doing that, right? And while doing, she was just sharing the things. Yumi would not wash him, she said. That she stated that. Yumi would not wash him. She said, did you wash him then? Sadu asked, not stopping for a moment, and a swift, concise movement. You underline the word, and for a moment, a swift, concise, precise movement. That means he was very quick. He was quick enough when he was working. That means expecting. That means his intention was saving a human soul. That's why he was not giving interest something. He was not showing interested on the things outer apart from the operation. That's why when Hannah shared with them, Yumi would not wash him. He just asked, did you wash him then? He asked, and of course, he continued his work. Yes, he said. He did not seem to hear her. Something he was very busy. That's why he was not at all considering. He just asked that, did you wash him then? But he continued his work. He was not expecting an answer from Hannah's mouth. And of course, he also said, yes, yes, I did that. But he never considered. But she was used to his absorption, underline the word. But she was used to his absorption in the sense, maybe that is his attitude when he is working on something. You can underline the word absorption. Absorption means you right, maybe his behavior during his operation or anything when related to his professional things. You're right. And she was used to his absorption. That means attitude, behavior, and attention when he was at work. Yeah, she understood. She was experienced. So when he is at his work, when he is at his work, he will not consider anybody. You understand that? He will complete his work profession at work first, then only he will look at everything. So she understood. So she also not worried. So she wondered for a moment. You can also see page number 33. She wondered for a moment if it mattered to him what was the body upon which he worked so long, as it was for the work he did so excellently. Something, to a Japanese patient means it would be better. But he was just, doing hard and of course toiling to save a human being who was from America. Americans, all Americans were their enemies. That's why she was just thinking that, and she wondered. That means, she was surprised for a moment. If it a matter, you can underline that. If it mattered to him here, Sadova, what was the body upon which he worked? Sadova worked so long as it was for the work he did so excellently. That much, dedication. Why is it happening like that? Why should he do that? He is a Japanese. Why should save him? And you will have to give the anesthetic if he needs it, he said. When she was thinking, and of course, when she was wondering, and here Sadovo asked one thing, something he mentioned that you will have to give the anesthetic if he needs it, he said. She repeated blankly. Something, she was not trained for that. She was not trained for that, so that she was just blankly, but never I have. She was telling that I think in the movie, I think Mersal, I think so. Without proper training, has given anesthetic, right? So here she repeated when he told that you will have to give the anesthetic. What is the meaning anesthetic if he needs. She repeated blankly, but I have. I don't have that experience. I should not. I'm not trying to for that. You know very well, but you're asking that. I'm sorry. It is easy enough, he said impatiently. You can do that. Whether it is injecting like no, it is very so normal. You can just take a cloth and of course you can saturate with that anesthesia. Then you can also. Well, that's why he said impatiently. It is easy enough. So he was taking out the packing now, and the blood began to flow more quickly. He peered underneath the wood, looked very keenly into the wound with the bright surgeon's light. Now you can see that in his forehead. Surgeon's light fastened on his forehead. The bullet is still there. He found that. He said with cool interest. When he saw the bullet, he half succeeded like. So he was very cool. He was very happy. Now I wonder how deep this rock wound is. If it is not too deep, it may be that I can get the bullet. And he was also chatting with even Hannah and of course the injured man who was in unconscious. That is something where we are speaking with us when we are working. Likewise, he was speaking. Now I wonder how deep this rock wound is. If it is not too deep, it may be that I can get the bullet immediately. But the bleeding is not superficial. Underline the word here. Superficial means yeah, not deep. Superficial means not superficial. You can have a close bracket. That means not deep. Superficial means